The Democratic Republic of Congo is incredibly rich in minerals such as cobalt, copper, diamonds, tin and gold. But it is a country ravaged by war, poverty, violence and human rights abuses, ranking among the poorest nations on earth. The United States says Israeli businessman Dan Gertler amassed a fortune through hundreds of millions of dollars worth of opaque and corrupt mining deals in the DCR. The sanctions were announced in late December by US President Donald Trump. In a strongly worded executive order, the president said the prevalence and severity of human rights abuse and corruption, such as those committed or directed by persons listed in the annex to this order, have reached such scope and gravity that they threaten the stability of international political and economic systems. Dan Gertler is included in the annex. The 44-year-old is reportedly worth over $1.2 billion. Mr. Gertler has denied any wrongdoing and has told Reuters his investments in Congo have created thousands of jobs. The DCR has rejected the allegations of bribery and praised Mr. Gertler's commitment to the country. Two companies on the US sanctions list, Fleuret Properties Limited and Rosaro Development Limited, were registered at 57/63 Linewall Road, the address of the ROC's largest law firm, Hassan's. Partners at Hassan's have worked closely with Mr. Gertler for the past decade. The Israeli billionaire has administered some of his business through Line Trust Corporation Limited, a professional trustee of the Line Group, the trust and company management arm of Hassan's. Mr. Gertler's Fleuret Group on its website included Hassan's senior partner James Levy as a director. The website is no longer online. On Direct Democracy, Gertler Picardo, who was a director of Rosaro in 2010, explained his involvement.
I am very confident that the work I did at the time in 2010, like the work that other lawyers do today and in the past from Gibraltar, is done in keeping with Gibraltar's laws and with international laws and norms. I'll tell you a little more about that if you like. I mean, one of the things I was doing then was ensuring that a particular mine, which had an asset which was uranium, was brought into the control of Israeli interests and not into the control of Iranian interests who were then competing for the purchase of it. So I would have thought that's a very positive thing to have done indeed, especially in 2010.
Do you have any concerns about the effects on Gibraltar's reputation?
Not at all. I think that Gibraltar does things which its professionals are responsible for, which are done in keeping with laws and rules, which are designed to ensure that things are done properly. And as long as you act properly, you're able to say, look, I took steps to ensure that the things that were done in this instance were done in keeping with all of the applicable rules at the time, and that includes all the international rules at the time. You can't ask more than that.
Nevertheless, you had a professional relationship with a man now sanctioned by the US government for human rights abuses and corruption.
Well, I mean,
perhaps
it depends
a judgment question?
It depends how you put it. I mean, for example, let's look at who that man is alleged to have been in a relationship with at the time. That is President Kabila of the Congo, who at that time was sitting next to President Bush in the White House and shaking hands, because at that time those things were not being said about Dan Gertler.
At least one large transaction has been made into a Gibraltar bank account in connection with Mr. Gertler's business. An Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative report for 2015 shows $83.5 million was sent in over 4 transfers, over 2 different dates in 2015, from the Standard Bank in Mauritius into a Hassan's client account at RBS International. Both sanctioned companies have been active. Publicly available data held by Companies House in Gibraltar shows that the balance sheet for Fleuret Properties listed net assets of $240 million in 2008, but just over $4 million in 2017. In a summary of its accounts for 2008, Rosaro Development filed total assets of $725 million. A year later, by the end of 2010, the company valued its total assets as $7 billion. An application to re-domicile the companies to the British Virgin Islands was made in November 2017, before the sanctions were announced. GBC understands the companies are no longer in Gibraltar. GBC News journalists have spent the last few months researching and investigating the story for you, and you can find all the documentation and all the sources that we've used to put this story together on our website, gbc.gi/news.